Hello there, and welcome to this week's broadcast. I am excited to talk to you today about how to break through when you're experiencing a creative block. And I have 4 ways that work for me and that I want to share with you today. So let's jump right in. Sometimes finding time for our creativity can be a challenge, especially during the holidays. But I think that if you take a look at these 4 ways that you can actually embrace your creativity, especially if you're experiencing a creative block, that they will go a long way to helping you. So number 1 is think about making a routine. Now, if you're a morning person like me, your morning routine might very well be getting up, grabbing a cup of coffee, and then making sure that you sit down at your creative table. That happens to be my kitchen table, since I'm a kitchen table artist, and spending 15 or 20 minutes doodling or sketching or experimenting with some watercolor. Morning rituals are all the rage right now, and I actually do believe that they're helpful. I think that you need to find the right one for you, however. And if you're not a morning person, then a morning ritual is probably not going to be super helpful. You're going to want to figure out a routine in the middle of the day, or even potentially a routine towards the end of the day, if that is actually when you are most creative. You want to lean into what works for your particular body and for your particular creativity. And each one of us is unique. Each one of us is very, very different. And so don't try to fit yourself into somebody else's box. Think about actually when you feel most creative and then figure out the routine that's going to work best to support that. And my routine, which I've mentioned to you guys before, is really simple. First of all, I don't have a fancy studio. I just work at my kitchen table. And then number 2, I keep it really, really simple. I just have either my cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I'm trying to drink less coffee, so I'm switching over to tea. And I will light a scented candle. For some reason, I have a huge collection of them, so I need to actually start using them. And so this is definitely a part of my morning routine. And then I will just make sure that I'm wearing warm enough clothes, because sometimes I forget that the heat turns off automatically in our house in the morning, and sometimes I forget to turn it back on, and I work from home all the time. So make sure you have an extra sweater or a little shawl or something so that you're comfortable. And then just either turn on a timer, or I don't even turn on a timer anymore. I just sit down and decide to do something for 15 or 20 minutes. And my go-to things are to play with my iPad Pro, because that is a tool that I've had for a couple years now, and I'm still really getting used to it. And so that's something fun to play with. And there's not a lot of pressure, because I know I'm not creating something that I'm going to post or creating something that's for a project or a commission. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll just play with watercolor. I'll get out just a piece of watercolor paper, and I'll play with all the different paint colors, so I remember kind of how they look and how I might want to mix them. And I might just play with creating a couple of color palettes, or I might just grab my sketchbook. You guys know I use a Canson sketchbook, and it's a mixed media paper, so I can do anything with it. And I might just get out a bunch of my pens and play around sketching leaves or branches or flowers or something that just comes to mind and is going to be really simple. And the time goes by really fast. So that's number 1, figuring out the best routine for yourself. Number 2 is finding inspiration or gathering inspiration. And I've got a bunch of ideas for you on this one. The first is to flip through magazines, or even during the holiday season, because I'm recording this the week before Christmas, we get a lot of catalogs in the mail. And so I usually just toss them, but during this time of the year, I'll sometimes just flip through them really quickly, and I might tear out a sheet that has a set of colors on it that I love, that might be the beginning of a color palette. Or I might see some imagery that is really inspiring. And especially right now, since I seem to be obsessed with painting and doing wreaths, holiday wreaths, I'm tearing out a lot of what I call kind of inspirational sheets to put in a little folder of various different leaves and leaf shapes and other kind of inspirational wreaths that are on all the catalogs right now. So that's one way. Another way is to go outside and just take a bunch of pictures, walk around. If you are in one of my programs, you know that one of the things I love to do with surface pattern design is to create my own textures. So walk around and take pictures of the gravel under your feet, or just dirt, or the side of a wall, or something like that. That could be really, really fun, and add it to your collection to create a beautiful texture for the background of your patterns in the future. And then another really great idea is to go on Pinterest. And my only caveat about Pinterest is you probably do want to put on a timer if you're going to go there, so that you don't go down a rabbit hole and spend hours and hours and hours on it. But it is a great place for you to go to see beautiful imagery, to create maybe a secret board or even a public board that has elements on it that you truly love and that really inspire you. And then you can go back to it and continue to add to it and draw from it when you need inspiration. Now, number 3 is really important. It's to take a break if you need to recharge. This is especially important if you're sick, or you're just not feeling that well, or you actually are in a creative block. It's very important to actually lean into that and to realize that your body is telling you something. If you're sick, it's telling you need to focus on recovery. If you're in a creative block, your body's also, and your mind is probably telling you that you need to take a break. So being intentional about that break and thinking about how long you might want it to last, and making sure that you don't rush yourself through it, is actually a really important way to get to the other side, and to feel refreshed, and to feel like you can lean back into your creativity, and that you're going to have a bunch of new creative ideas. And it's very important. This intentional break idea, I think, is really important. I started to call it kind of one of the things I do to support it is I have this new kind of silly name for it, which is called a virtual cleanse. But one of the things I'll do is I'll try to turn off all of my social media devices. I'll stop looking at email other than just once a day. And I will try to watch less TV, and also just not use all of my various devices to watch videos. I'll really try to take a break from all of that stimulation. And I find that doing a visual cleanse like that can really help me recharge my batteries and go more inward towards what personally delights me and brings me joy in my creative journey. So think about doing that. And then finally, number 4 is to embrace the perfectly imperfect. Now, there are several people in my life who I hear this from all the time. So I've mentioned to you guys before that I'm a huge fan of Shada Campbell, who's here on YouTube as well. And she's an amazing artist, and she does YouTube videos twice a week. She's incredibly talented. I love her whole vibe. And she frequently, as she is teaching us how to do something, will mention the fact that she loves being perfectly imperfect, or embracing perfectly imperfect. And then another mentor of mine, whose name is Ryan Levesque, he is in the online marketing space, and he actually has this expression is, you don't have to get it perfect, you just have to get it going. And I think that he actually got that expression from someone else from actually many years ago. However, it's really become his mantra that he repeats to us all the time. And I wanted to share with you, we're never going to be perfect, and we need to let go of perfection so that we can actually make progress. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And if you enjoyed this broadcast, please hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to click that little bell so that you're notified when I have a new video available. And I always like to say in closing that I am Anne LaFollette, and it's never too late to create. Bye for now, and I'll see you next week.